The person you love is begging you one last time. Please read this message before it disappears. Something slipped through the silence just moments ago, and the person you love is hoping you find it before it fades forever. Not because the words themselves are magical, but because they finally carry the honesty they were too afraid to share until now. Imagine someone staring at a glowing screen long after midnight, typing a sentence, deleting it, starting again, whispering, "No. That's not enough." Their hands pause. Their heartbeat wins another argument with their pride. Then one final message begins to take shape, not perfect, not polished, just painfully real. Before you decide this story isn't yours, stay for another moment, because the smallest detail you're about to hear changes everything. What made them risk saying what they never thought they could? And why did they believe they had only one last chance before the opportunity disappeared? The room around them feels strangely quiet, yet their thoughts are louder than ever. Every memory returns at once, conversations that ended too soon, smiles that lasted longer than expected, moments when they almost admitted how deeply your presence had changed them. They realize something unexpected. It was never the grand moments that stayed with them. It was the ordinary ones. The laugh they replayed in their mind during difficult days, the encouragement they never forgot, the silence that somehow felt comfortable instead of empty. That realization becomes impossible to ignore. So they begin writing the message they should have written long ago. Not to rewrite the past, but to stop another important moment from slipping away unnoticed. Still, one question refuses to leave them: what if this message reaches you too late? Keep watching, because what happens next reveals why they refuse to give up after almost walking away. The cursor blinks. Seconds pass. They read every sentence again, searching for courage hidden between ordinary words. Then they remove everything that sounds rehearsed until only the truth remains. Please read this before it disappears. Not because the message will magically vanish, but because opportunities have a quiet way of closing when fear keeps people waiting. They finally understand that silence has been stealing more from them than rejection ever could. Their expression softens. A small smile appears for the first time in days. They press send, then immediately wonder whether they made the bravest decision of their life or the most vulnerable one. Yet something unexpected happens almost instantly. Instead of feeling panic, they feel relief, as though a weight they had carried for far too long has finally been placed on the ground. But don't look away now, because someone else notices what they've done, and the conversation that begins in the very next moment will uncover a truth neither of them was prepared to hear. A quiet voice breaks the stillness before anyone has time to second-guess what just happened. The message has been sent, but the story is only beginning. Across the room, someone notices the unusual calm on their face and asks a simple question: "Did you finally tell them?" For a brief second, there is no answer, only a deep breath and a thoughtful smile that says more than words ever could. Then comes the reply: "I had to. I couldn't let another day pass pretending I didn't care." That single sentence changes the atmosphere completely. Suddenly, every fear that had been building for so long begins to lose its power. The person you love realizes that hiding emotions was never protecting anyone, it was only delaying happiness. Stay with this because one unexpected conversation is about to reveal why your name has been living in their heart far longer than you could ever imagine. And if this story is touching something inside you, consider sharing your thoughts in the comments and subscribing so you never miss the next chapter of journeys like this. The next few moments become even more surprising. The conversation grows deeper than either of them expected. Instead of asking whether the message will receive a reply, the other person quietly asks, "What made today different?" A long silence follows before the answer finally arrives. "Because I almost convinced myself to let them become just another beautiful memory, and that terrified me." Those words hang in the air. They aren't dramatic, they're honest. Every missed opportunity suddenly feels visible. Every unsent text, every unfinished conversation, every smile that was never returned begins connecting into one powerful realization. They admit that love doesn't disappear because people stop caring, it fades when people stop expressing what they truly feel. That truth becomes impossible to ignore. One small decision tonight has already changed the direction of tomorrow. But there is still one detail no one has mentioned yet, and it may become the most important part of this entire story. Before you assume you know where this is leading, wait just a little longer, because someone unexpected is about to step into the picture. Just as the night begins to settle into silence again, a gentle notification lights up the screen. It isn't the response they expected, yet somehow it feels even more meaningful. The words are short, but every letter carries warmth. "I'm glad you finally said it." For several seconds they simply stare at those words, unable to believe how much peace can fit inside a single sentence. The fear of being misunderstood slowly melts away, replaced by quiet hope and the exciting possibility that this is not an ending at all, it is the beginning they almost lost. Their eyes fill with relief, not because every question has been answered, but because the distance between two hearts has finally started to shrink. And then, just when everything seems ready to settle, another message begins appearing on the screen, longer than the first, more personal than anyone expected, and carrying a truth that has remained hidden until this exact moment. What those next words reveal will transform everything you thought you understood about this connection. The three blinking dots appear on the screen, then disappear. They return again, pause, and vanish once more, as if every word being written carries the weight of months that were never spoken aloud. Time suddenly feels different. Seconds stretch into what feels like hours. Finally, the message arrives, not rushed, not dramatic, but impossibly sincere. "I've read your message more than once because I wanted to be sure it was real." Those words stop everything. The person you love leans back, their eyes fixed on the screen, realizing that honesty has done what fear never could. It opened a door that had quietly remained closed for far too long. Yet the message continues. "There were so many times I wanted to reach out first, but I kept believing the moment had already passed." That single confession changes the entire picture. It reveals that silence existed on both sides, not because affection was missing, but because uncertainty had been speaking louder than hope. Don't drift away now, because the next few lines uncover something neither of them expected to admit, and once it's spoken, nothing will ever feel quite the same again. Another message follows almost immediately, carrying a warmth that can't be faked. "Do you remember that ordinary afternoon when we laughed about something neither of us can even recall now? It seems like such a simple memory, yet it unlocks dozens of forgotten moments that suddenly become crystal clear. They remember the conversations that ended with reluctant goodbyes, the smiles that lingered long after they looked away, and the strange comfort that always seemed to appear whenever the other person was near. One by one, those quiet memories assemble into something much larger than either of them had recognized before. They realize the connection wasn't built in spectacular moments, it was woven together through tiny acts of kindness, patience, and unspoken understanding. That's why this message feels so different. It isn't trying to impress anyone. It's simply revealing the truth that had been quietly growing beneath the surface all along. Before you think you've reached the heart of this story, stay a little longer, because one final admission is about to explain why this message was never meant to stay hidden forever. Then comes the sentence that neither of them rehearsed, yet both had secretly hoped to hear. If this message had disappeared before you read it, I think I would have spent a long time wondering what our future could have been. The room falls silent again, but this silence feels completely different from before. It is no longer filled with hesitation, it is filled with possibility. A gentle smile spreads across both faces, even though miles may separate them, because for the first time they are looking toward the same future instead of wondering about different ones. Yet just as peace begins to settle in, another notification quietly lights up the screen. This one isn't a confession. It isn't a memory. It's an unexpected invitation, one that could transform everything these messages have started. The words are simple, but they carry extraordinary meaning. There's something I've wanted to ask you for a very long time, and I don't want to wait another day. Whatever comes next is far bigger than either of them imagined, and the answer could become the moment they remember for the rest of their lives. The invitation lingers on the screen, waiting with remarkable patience. No pressure. No countdown. Just a quiet question that somehow feels more significant than every message exchanged before it. They take one slow breath and begin typing carefully, wanting every word to reflect what has been growing inside them for so long. Would you let me stop wondering what this could become? It isn't a perfect sentence, but perfection is no longer the goal. Authenticity is. For the first time, neither of them is hiding behind uncertainty or pretending that timing doesn't matter. The distance between two hearts begins shrinking with every honest word they exchange. Stay with this, because the next response reveals something that neither of them expected to hear tonight. And if this story has reminded you that sincere words still matter, feel free to share your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories that explore the moments capable of changing everything. What comes next is the kind of moment that quietly stays with people long after the screen goes dark. The reply arrives almost immediately, as though it had been waiting all along. I thought you would never ask. A smile appears before either of them realizes it. The room that once felt filled with hesitation now feels brighter, lighter, almost unfamiliar. They begin talking about the little things they never had the courage to mention before. The favorite conversations they secretly replayed, the days they wondered if the other person was thinking about them too, the tiny coincidences that suddenly no longer seem like coincidences at all. Every new sentence uncovers another layer of understanding. They discover they were never standing on opposite sides of the story. They were simply walking toward the same destination from different directions, each believing the other had already moved on. There's one detail, though, that hasn't been shared yet. It isn't about the past. It isn't even about tonight. It's about a promise quietly taking shape for the future, and once it's spoken, everything they've built together begins to feel wonderfully real. As the conversation stretches deeper into the night, neither of them notices how much time has passed. The only thing that matters now is the feeling that something meaningful has finally found its voice. Then the last message of the evening appears, not rushed, not dramatic, but unforgettable. No matter where tomorrow takes us, let's never allow silence to speak for us again. Those words settle gently, carrying more hope than either of them expected. They understand that this wasn't simply about sending one message before it disappeared. It was about choosing honesty before another opportunity quietly slipped away. Just when it seems the conversation has reached its natural ending, another notification softly lights the screen. This one doesn't contain a confession or a question. Instead, it begins with 6 simple words: "There's something I never told anyone." The heartbeat of the story changes once again, because whatever follows has the power to reveal the deepest truth either of them has kept hidden until this very moment. The final notification doesn't arrive with urgency. It arrives with quiet certainty, the kind that only appears after someone decides they have nothing left to hide. For a long moment, the message remains unopened, not because either of them is afraid anymore, but because they understand that some words permanently change the direction of a story. Then, with one gentle tap, the screen reveals the sentence that has waited far too long to be spoken. "There's something I never told anyone, because I didn't know how to put it into words until now." The silence that follows isn't uncomfortable, it is full of anticipation. Every ordinary distraction fades into the background. Every unfinished thought suddenly becomes clear. They continue reading, heart steady but hopeful, realizing this isn't another passing conversation. This is the truth they have both been slowly walking toward from the very beginning. Before you look away, stay through this moment, because the next few lines explain why this message was never meant to disappear. It was meant to be understood. The confession unfolds with remarkable simplicity. "You changed the way I see my future without even trying." There are no dramatic promises, no impossible expectations, only honest recognition of what one person's presence can quietly mean to another. They describe how ordinary days seemed lighter after hearing your voice, how difficult moments became easier because the thought of you reminded them that hope could still exist, and how they finally realized they had been measuring every meaningful moment against the feeling they experienced whenever you entered their life. What surprises them most isn't that these emotions existed, it is how long they stayed hidden behind hesitation. Suddenly, every unanswered question begins finding its place. Every delayed conversation now feels like preparation for this exact exchange. They understand that the greatest connections are rarely built through perfect timing. They grow through patience, courage, and the willingness to finally say what truly matters. Yet one final message remains unsent, and somehow it feels even more important than everything that came before. With the night growing quieter, they rest their hands above the keyboard one last time. There is nothing left to prove and nothing left to disguise. Only one sincere thought remains. They type slowly, smiling with a confidence they have never felt before. "No matter where life leads us next, I'm grateful I didn't let this become another message I was too afraid to send." They read it once, then pressed send without hesitation. In that single moment, relief replaces uncertainty, hope replaces doubt, and the story that almost disappeared becomes the beginning of something beautifully real. The screen grows still, but the feeling remains, a reminder that sometimes the most important words are not the loudest ones, but the ones finally spoken at the right time. And just as the conversation gently comes to rest, one last notification quietly appears at the top of the screen. It contains only a few simple words: tomorrow. I'd like to see you. Those 5 words open the door to an entirely new chapter, one neither of them could have imagined when this unforgettable message first appeared. Morning arrives with a different kind of light. Not brighter because the world has changed, but because 2 hearts are finally looking at the same sunrise with the same quiet hope. The message, tomorrow. I'd like to see you, is still resting on the screen, yet it somehow feels alive, inviting a future that neither of them dared imagine only hours before. They read it again, not to check the words, but to absorb the courage behind them. Every doubt that once echoed through sleepless nights begins to fade into the background. They realize this meeting isn't about creating a perfect moment. It's about discovering what becomes possible when 2 people stop hiding behind "maybe someday." Stay with this for one more turn in the story, because the next decision isn't made with grand speeches or dramatic gestures. It's made with something far more powerful, a quiet certainty that refuses to disappear. And just when it seems everything has fallen perfectly into place, one unexpected detail emerges that makes the meeting even more meaningful than either of them anticipated. The hours pass slowly, each one carrying a mixture of excitement and calm anticipation. They think carefully about what they want to say when they finally see each other, but every rehearsed sentence feels unnecessary. The truth has already found its voice through honesty. What remains now is simply being present. As they prepare for the day ahead, familiar places suddenly feel different. The coffee shop where they once sat alone, the street they walked without noticing its beauty, the park bench they passed 100 times. All of it now carries the possibility of becoming part of a new memory instead of an old routine. They smile at the thought that the greatest turning points in life rarely announce themselves with fireworks. Sometimes they begin with one sincere message, one brave reply, and one decision to show up instead of wondering, what if? But before that long-awaited meeting begins, something quietly catches their attention. It's a message they almost overlooked, tucked beneath the conversation, waiting patiently to be opened. What it says adds one final layer to everything that has happened so far. They tap the forgotten message, expecting something ordinary. Instead, they find words written long before either of them had the courage to speak openly. It reads, "If you're reading this one day, it means I finally found the confidence to believe that what we share deserves a chance." They pause, overwhelmed not by surprise, but by the realization that hope had been alive all along, quietly waiting for the right moment to step into the light. A gentle laugh escapes as they understand the beautiful irony of it all. The message everyone feared would disappear didn't vanish at all. It became the bridge that connected 2 people who had spent far too long standing on opposite sides of uncertainty. As they slip the phone into their pocket and step forward to meet the day, their heart feels lighter than it has in years. The story that began with one final plea has become the beginning of a future built on honesty, trust, and possibility, and as they walk toward the place where someone special is already waiting, they know the most unforgettable chapter has only just begun.